Crisis on the Border in association with Byrna, less lethal, the alternative to deadly force.
The mission today is border security.
After an all-out blitz at the border, the tide is turning.
But illegal border crossings now have plummeted. We now have the best border we've ever had.
But there are new challenges on the front lines.
Now with these drones that have the capabilities of actually dropping explosives, it really shows how much more these cartels have evolved, and the threat level has increased even more so now.
These are serious criminals that don't belong in our communities.
And in American cities and towns.
And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready.
Mr. Hoover, is the president happy with the number of arrests?
I'm not.
Tonight, we are live on the ground with an unfiltered and raw look at the situation. There are no politics here, just unprecedented access to the men and women working around the clock.
They've got rifles pointed at you from the ground. What can you do?
A special edition of NewsNation, Crisis on the Border, starts right now. All right, so we are live on the front lines for the next hour, a special report on the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border through the eyes of the people who live it every single day. Good evening, I'm Brian Entin here for this special edition of NewsNation. We have a lot to get to tonight. We've got brand new numbers on the apprehensions at the border, new moves from the Pentagon just within the last couple of hours that include moving even more U.S. troops to the border, and exclusive access like you've never seen before. You're not going to miss this. We are going in the skies. We're taking you on live ride-alongs and getting a never-before-seen look at the training underway right now to take on the cartels, not only in Mexico, but right here in the United States. I'm joined now by my colleague, Ali Bradley. She lives and breathes the border. She even lives right near the border wall. We're going to be joined throughout the show by deputies both in Texas and Arizona. They are riding along right now. We're going to go to them with all of the action over the next hour, but we want to start right now with Ali Bradley. She is also in the car right now, riding near the U.S.-Mexico border. Tell us, Ali, what you're up to, where you're going, what kind of action is happening out there tonight.
Yeah, hey, Brian. So right now we're actually on Highway 90 in between Del Rio and Kinney County, in between Brackettville. And this highway is one of those areas that was heavily exploited by the criminal cartel, human smuggling pursuits all day, every day over the last 4 years. It's quiet right now. So we're right now linking up with the sheriff's deputy who's out here on patrol, looking to see what they get into, if there's any activity, because everyone kind of anticipates the cartel's going to ramp up those human smuggling efforts. So we're watching for that right now, but it is quiet out here. As of right now, we can show you guys what the street looks like here as we continue to travel down this highway that once again was heavily exploited over the last 4 years, Brian.
Yeah, we saw the two deputies there also standing right by. You're in the car. I want to show you, though, Ali, NewsNation's just gotten brand new numbers. These came in today from the month of February. This is extraordinary to look at. Border Patrol reported just over 8,000 apprehensions this month alone. Might sound like a lot, but look at this. Look at the comparison. When you go back, February 2024, 140,000 apprehensions, and it just goes down from there all the way over here to 8,000 this month, the lowest it's ever been, according to President Trump. What do you make of these numbers, Ali?
Yeah, you know, you're seeing around 300 on average every day, right, crossing the southern border. And when we first started seeing these numbers come out, Brian, when President Trump first kind of really started cracking down on the border, you know, I had to ask my sources, are you messing with me right now? These numbers are so low, it almost seemed like an error. Because for some perspective here, I've been reporting down here for about 4 years, and there were days at its peak that we were reporting nearly 12,000 encounters in a single day. So now we're looking at 300 or fewer. I mean, that's across 9 sectors in a 24-hour period. So yeah, they're not seeing much activity at all, and that's the whole concept of all of this is the reason this was a story in the first place is because those numbers were so monumental that it pulled all of the agents from the line, and they were not able to actually patrol the border and go after the people that wanted to get away, right? So Border Patrol has existed because that has always been a problem, people trying to get away. But they are now telling us that they're finally able to do their job again because they're not processing people and transporting them. 300 a day is manageable. We even heard Jay Johnson in the past say 1,000 a day is catastrophic at the southern border. Yeah, we saw up to nearly 12,000 at one point. So right now, agents say, you know, things are a lot quieter down here. Again, they feel like they can finally do their job. One of the agents that we worked with in El Paso said, this is what we signed up for. This is the oath that we took to protect the nation and secure the southern border. We're finally able to do that, and they feel empowered to do that, Brian.
It is crazy, Ali, when you think at one point we were reporting that there were 12,000 apprehensions each day, and now the number is down to 8,000 for the entire month of February. President Trump gave NewsNation an update on the border this week. Take a look at this.
We're doing unbelievably in getting people out, getting criminals out, people that should have never been here, that the Biden administration with their stupid open borders should have never allowed. They came in from prisons and jails and mental institutions, and gang members and drug dealers coming into our country like this. We're getting them out, and we're doing really well. I mean, the level of effectiveness has been incredible. Everybody's talking about.
And there's also been a change when it comes to the Border Patrol. They're noticing it. You think of what they were dealing with just a couple of months ago versus with what they're dealing with now. Granted, there's still a lot of action, which we're going to get to. But listen to what the Border Patrol had to say about this recent change.
The threat of violence is always in the back of your mind. But you know, by maintaining a constant presence out here, you can pick up on those little changes and those little cues that can maybe keep you informed of like what changes may be coming. So I mean, you don't ever let your guard down. So I mean, do I think about it? Absolutely. Is it going to change the way we do our job? No, we're still going to be out here enforcing the laws.
It's a positive because this is what we signed up to do. This is the oath we took when we came into office, you know, to protect the Constitution, protect our nation's borders against enemies, foreign and domestic. So for us, it's a proud moment to gain operational control of our nation's borders.
You heard him say it, Ali. It's a proud moment, but you live down there along the border. You see it every day. I mean, it's still dangerous, and there's still a lot of action, isn't there?
Yeah, and the danger has really shifted, too. You heard him there. You know, it's always in the back of your mind. You've got, you know, bomb-wielding drones and all these different things that they're countering. But just because we're not seeing a lot of activity right now at the southern border does not mean they're not trying. While we were up with Air and Marine Operations, we actually thwarted 2 different cartel ladder crews that were attempting to breach the barrier. One of those crews, a duo, stashes the ladder behind a drainage ditch kind of thing. And then a group of 4 had this big ladder with notches on the top that literally affixes to the top of that wall, and they could just get up and over really easily. But that presence that we provided being up in the air, and all of the Border Patrol agents and Department of Defense soldiers that have been deployed down at the border, they're acting as that show of force, that very proactive posture. So with that being said, we want to bring in our next guest here. This is Paul Perez. He is the president of the Border Patrol Union. And with this, Paul, we want to first talk about when we sit here and we talk about these issues where we're seeing fewer people at the border, but we're seeing more resources down there. What does that mean to you guys in Border Patrol to have those resources finally?
So it's great, Ali. You couldn't have said it any better earlier. I was listening to what you had to say, and your experience on the border shows. So the resources that we have now, you know, we're asking for 10,000 more agents to be able to secure the border. Right now, our numbers are low, and that is great, but we want to keep them low. We don't want to lay down and allow everybody to come across like President Biden did. President Trump's not going to do anything like that, but we need the resources. And so the additional thousands of troops that we've got, as well as other federal partners, our law enforcement partners at the state and municipal level, they're helping out quite a bit, and we're actually able to control the border, and we're going to make sure that we do it once and for all under President Trump.
Now, Paul, when I talk about, you know, not letting your guard down, we heard one of the agents there saying that specifically. When you see this quiet activity or quietness at the border. Is it fair to say that it's not if but when the cartel will strike again? That's what all my sources say. That's what every agent I talk to down on the ground is telling me. It might be quiet right now, but don't let your guard down. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. The cartels have become more aggressive. They've taken shots at our agents in different sectors along the southwest border. They're not going to stop doing what they do. Their job, the way they see it, is to funnel the drugs and illegal aliens across the border, traffic weapons south, money south. So they're not going to stop doing what they're doing. As long as the cartels control Mexico, they're going to keep trying to get their product into the United States. So we see that they're going to become more aggressive. They're not going to stop.
Paul, I wanted to ask you, just within the last couple of hours, the Pentagon announced that they're going to be sending thousands more troops to the border, including a specialized air unit. There's already thousands down there. Is there any concern, in a sense, that these troops could get in the way? I was talking to some folks that I know in the Border Patrol said, the troops don't always know the ins and outs of the border. Have you heard that concern at all?
Look, the troops that are coming down, we've been working with the National Guard under Governor Abbott for years now. We had a great border czar who's now our Border Patrol chief. They're going to make sure that they
sheriff right now, so if I do that, it's going to
they're going to make sure that they integrate well with us. And so I'm not concerned about that. I think they're going to do a great job for us.
Yeah, we're looking at the video now. I mean, there's just so many resources down there compared to what we saw just months ago under the Biden administration. I want to go now, though. Stay with us, Paul, because we want to come back to you if something happens. But I want to go now to Deputy Molinar from the Kinney County Sheriff's Office in Texas. We've also got Deputy Bronstein from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office in Arizona. Both of them are driving right now out on the roads live as we speak. I want to start with you, Deputy Molinar. You're in Texas. You're east of Del Rio. What are you noticing out there right now, and also just in general over the last month since the resources have really ramped up along the border? I don't know if you can hear me, Deputy Molinar. Can you hear me? We'll get back to Deputy Molinar in a minute. We might be having a little communication issue. But Allie, it sounds like you've got something out where you are. What's going on out there, Allie?
Yeah, we're actually getting ready to link up with the sheriff's deputy that you're trying to get a hold of. So maybe I can just go over and find him really quick. Would you like us to do that?
Yeah, try that out.
Let's see if we can link up with him really quickly.
Let's see if we can do it.
Yeah, let's head over here. We just arrived at Kinney County Sheriff's Department, actually, and he's here in the vehicle. So let's see if we can get some interaction with him and with them and with their crews. Let me jump out of the car here and interact with him really quick.
Yeah, so this is Kinney County, Texas, again, east of Del Rio. Allie actually lives in the Del Rio area. Has been a very, very busy place recently. Let's see what's happening here, Allie. If you can talk to the deputy. Hopefully, he's got communication now.
Yeah, we're live right now. Do you have a mic on right now?
Yes.
Okay. Brian, can you hear Deputy Molinar?
Yes, we've got you now, Allie. Yep, I know the service is a little spotty out there, but we got you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Deputy Molinar, right now, Kinney County, it was one of these spots that was a smuggling hotspot. I mean, every single day, you guys were responding to human smugglers on your highway. Deaths. I mean, I was here for so many casualties.
Yes, ma'am.
What's it like now with the slowdown? I mean, we're only seeing an average of 300 people crossing the border a day. What are you seeing?
Yeah, the numbers are completely down from what we've been gathering within the last few months. But yeah, it's back down to where we're catching the bare minimum. Border Patrol's numbers are down, our numbers are down, and we're just back to just normal. Our normal days is just calls for service and stuff like that, interacting with the public. But yeah, as far as the smuggling and the encounters with undocumented migrants, the numbers are completely down.
Does it concern you? A lot of people don't think the cartel just gave up and said, okay, we're done, we're out. Yeah. Does it worry you that they're going to come back with a vengeance, that they're going to come back with force? And how are you guys preparing for that if it does happen?
Yeah, that's what we're all just kind of just on our toes right now. We feel like something's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But we got the government guys still coming down here and helping out and assisting us. So we're just trying to prepare for the worst right now.
Now, I know that under Operation Lone Star, you guys have deputies that were deployed down here.
Yes, ma'am.
I know one of those deputies has since kind of been removed from your guys' deployment, from your department. Has that had an impact yet, or are you worried about losing manpower because you don't have the statistics, and then if that happens,
Yes, ma'am.
you might not have the resources to respond?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, with the Operation Lone Star, we're waiting to see what's going to happen with it. We still have the other funding with the federal government with Stone Guarding, so we still have some deputies under that. So if we do lose some people, we'll still have some manpower.
Okay. Deputy Molinar's out here with one of our photographers, so he's going to continue to ride along. We're going to follow you guys.
Okay.
I'm going to jump back in the car, so I'm going to toss it back to my colleague. Brian, back over to you while I jump back in the car. Thank you,
Okay,
Deputy.
yes, ma'am.
All right, Ali, thank you. Yeah, we've got another deputy right now also in Arizona and other video from ride-alongs all along the border we're going to get to. Also, more to come tonight from the front lines. We're going to keep an eye on those deputies. They're patrolling live right now. Also, for the first time ever, this has never happened before, our cameras are allowed inside the Border Patrol's elite BORTAC units training headquarters. So cool to see an exclusive look behind the scenes at what they do to fight the cartel, not only in Mexico, but also right here in American cities. Also tonight, 3 suspected Tren de Aragua gang members just arrested in New Mexico. All of this happened over the last 24 hours. Wait until you see how many weapons these guys had. We've got video and pictures when the arrest went down. And later, we have focused so much on the U.S.-Mexico border, but there is also a crisis along the Florida coast. I'm going to take you up into the sky with the U.S. Coast Guard as they look for migrants coming from as far away as China. How do they end up on the Florida coast from China? Our live special, Crisis on the Border, on the front lines. It continues right after this.
Tuesday on NewsNation, the presidential address to Congress. Starting at 8/7 Central, a special edition of Cuomo sets the stage for President Trump's highly anticipated remarks. All the details from NewsNation Politics, powered by The Hill.
We lay it out so you can understand the complexity of the sides.
Then stay with NewsNation as Leland Vittert takes you through what's next for the nation. The presidential address to Congress. Special coverage begins Tuesday at 8/7 Central. NewsNation, news for all Americans.
Definitely not going to be one that sits on the sideline and watch. I'm from the old school law enforcement style. I believe in being proactive. And when you have a proactive police agency or sheriff's office, you're going to get results. And you're going to put criminals in jail and take them off the street. Almost 2 years ago, I was introduced to Brad Coe, the sheriff of Kinney County, Texas. At the time, he was desperately needing help from other law enforcement agencies to help combat the influx of illegal aliens coming through his county. We actually donated some burners to Kinney County deputies when we were down here working Operation Lone Star with them. And man, they just rave about them because they're able to use them in these fields and this brush when they're chasing these suspects. When we're dealing with these illegals down here, that, say for instance, they take off and we have to chase them and they bail out of a car and take off running, you know, or if we're confronted with a driver that's aggressive, instead of having to go straight to lethal force, we can do non-lethal by pulling out the burner and popping them with a couple of rounds of this OC gas, and just drastically reduces our, I guess you want to call hand-to-hand combat with these people. It really knocks them down. In fact, most of the time, you ain't even got to chase them down. They just want to throw their hands up and say, hey, give me something to take this, you know, water or whatever to get all this irritant out of my eyes. Good. But with these, you can just get in close proximity of them. When that ball bursts, I mean, it gets them no matter what. Every time I've deployed my burner, it's been effective every time, and I've had everybody comply once they've been hit.
For the first time ever, NewsNation was able to get access, media was able to get access to a specialized operations group within Border Patrol. It's called BORTAC. It's a tactical team. It is an elite unit where they work specifically to target the worst of the worst while also working to save lives. We were there through a hostage simulation that they played out for NewsNation exclusively. Again, it was high stakes for these guys. They carry M4s, they use drones, they use a lot of different technology, but their most important tool is their team. There is zero room for error. Take a look.
Our primary mission is those high-value criminal aliens, and we'll do that anywhere.
We train this 365 days a year. Like this is what we train for. These guys are all invested. They're hand-selected to be here here at the national team. So what we're trying to do is take away their focus on this side and hit them from this side.
You know, this type of mission set, skill set is zero fail. We go on every op knowing that nothing's going to be perfect and that we're going to have to adjust, and the guys are really good at it. So it's something we take very seriously and we train constantly. And we're constantly training scenario-based stuff, so we're throwing things at the guys that they haven't seen before. So if they don't see something that they've seen in training or an operation, they are always flexing and getting good at adjusting quickly. And so that skill set plays out to things they haven't seen before. We have our kind of multi-purpose range. The snipers use this a lot. There's targets, I think, that go out to over a mile. So we've always targeted the cartels. That's nothing new. That's one of our primary missions is going after the cartels. If they cross that border, people or anything illegal that comes across that border, that has a nexus to our authorities. So when we have the authority to go ahead and target them anywhere.
It's so crazy to see, Ali. It really looks like they're training for a war zone, which in a sense they are. And they're not just used along the border, right? When he talks about them going out and going after the cartels, that can be inside America too, right, Ali?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the DEA has said, hey, the cartel is present in all 50 states, right? So when we asked Commander Voss specifically about that, are you guys being directed to go after the cartels? He said, we do every single day because they're present in the United States. They're one of our main targets that we go after and we combat every single day because they are in all of the major cities and all of the major in our states. So that is something that they're working on every day, Brian.
Yeah, amazing to see. Great access there. All right, still to come tonight after the break, the drug lord wanted by the United States for decades, responsible for killing a federal agent. This guy is finally in American custody. How the feds got the notorious killer and the 28 other cartel members just shipped from Mexico to the United States. All of this went down. What's behind it? What does it mean? Did we have to give something in return? We're going to dive in when we come back.
Being able to have something to always protect myself, this Byrna allows me to have that peace of mind no matter where we're really at.
It provides you with peace of mind. Not only that you can thwart the threat, but that you don't have to take a life in order to do so.
With the Byrna, you have the situation where now you're able to make yourself prepared for what might actually happen once you get there.
Of all the materials I use as a realtor, Byrna just fits in with all of that, and it's something that I don't think I'll ever need, but I'll be really glad that I have.
All right, so there's some major news in the fight against the cartel. Mexico extradited a notorious drug lord to America 40 years after he was allegedly involved in the kidnapping, torture, and killing of a DEA agent. His name's Rafael Caro Quintero. He appeared in a New York courtroom where he pleaded not guilty to all charges. He was one of the 29 drug cartel members extradited to the U.S. to stand trial. The Justice Department called it an unprecedented operation, and it sends a big message coming off the Trump administration's order to designate cartels as terrorist organizations. I'd like to welcome in Brian Townsend. He is a former DEA special agent and founder of Only 2MG. It's an organization that raises awareness about the fentanyl crisis. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. First of all, I want to ask you about these 29 cartel members that were sent now, extradited from Mexico to the U.S. Has anything like this ever happened before?
No, not at all. And this is unprecedented. And this is good for DEA, and this is good for America. These are violent criminals who are preying on our communities. with illicit drugs like fentanyl, killing thousands of Americans every year. And nothing like this has ever happened before. We are excited to see this type of activity going on. This cooperation, the negotiations, whatever's happening in Mexico with our government is wonderful news, and it's good for all of us.
Brian, I think when so many of us think about the cartel, we think of people who are in Mexico, like these guys, but they have inundated our cities in America. How serious is that? How many are there? Are they in every city in America?
Yeah, they have absolutely infiltrated most major cities in the United States. I mean, obviously they have more command and control over larger cities like, Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, Los Angeles, Atlanta, New York, cities like that. But they're a threat everywhere. They have woven into our communities. They work with other criminal networks to, distribute drugs once they get across the border into our neighborhoods and kill Americans with them.
Mr. Townsend, we saw the list of the 6 cartels and 2 gangs that were designated as foreign terrorist organizations. When I was down in El Paso last week, agents had no idea that the Juarez cartel, which splintered off into La Linea, those were not designated, and they were pretty frustrated. Do you feel that Juarez cartel needs to be designated, and is there any reason why it's not?
I'm sure those questions are being asked at high levels within DEA and the federal government, and I know they'll work with other law enforcement and intelligence centers to determine whether or not that's the best strategy going forward. I know this focus has been on the ones that were designated, especially the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation, the CJNG, and I can assure you though, law enforcement is focused on all these dangerous criminals, all these dangerous organizations that are, continue to flood the United States with these drugs.
Now, Brian, do we need to have forces going into Mexico right now to combat the cartels, or are we focusing on the United States and our territory here? Because you just said they're present everywhere. Where do you think the resources and response needs to be right now in response to the cartel?
Well, but negotiations and the work that's being done between our government, President Trump and our government, and President Sheinbaum and the Mexican government is unprecedented. Not only do we have incredible resources or more resources to do our job more effectively and efficiently, we're getting more cooperation, and I think we need to continue on that. We need to keep our foot on the gas, if you will, and continue to put pressure, go after, target, dismantle, and disrupt these dangerous criminal organizations.
Brian, we always appreciate your expertise. We appreciate you coming on tonight. All right, coming up, even with things improving on the border, smugglers are finding new ways to sneak people in, and migrants are paying them even more money, insane amounts of money now to get them across the border. We go into the brush. We've got an exclusive look at the fight on the front lines. That's coming up next.
Crisis on the Border in association with Berna, less lethal, the alternative to deadly force.
I carry a lethal firearm, but sometimes I don't want to take someone's life. Well, I never want to take someone's life. I bought a Berna last November because my wife had told me that something happened one night and she heard a noise, I wasn't there, and she grabbed a pepper spray. And I said, honey, you have better defense. You have lethal defense. And she said to me in the most sincere way, I don't want to kill anybody in my house. And it led me looking. And I looked in the mail and she had a flyer for a Berna. So I looked it up and found out there's a store right here in Vegas. Came down to the store, the staff was excellent. Let me fire one in the back and try it out, and I ended up buying one. Took it home, let her try it. She fell in love with it. Tried shooting it, everything worked out great, she could handle it. We ended up buying these for 2 of our kids for Christmas. I've got friends who've bought them. I've talked to my work about them, and I just keep buying more and more stuff. It's a fantastic tool that can be an intermediary between lethal force and going home at the end of the day. Great product, I love it. Thank you guys.
Welcome back, everybody. As the numbers show more and more that the tide is turning when it comes to the U.S.-Mexico border, the cartel and smugglers are becoming more and more desperate, making it their mission for even more high stakes. NewsNation's Jorge Ventura is getting a closer look at all of that. He had an exclusive ride-along near the border. Take a look at this.
Patrolling the border is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job.
What do you think, bro? What do you think? The DB's right here.
Especially in areas used by smugglers and migrants to hide from authorities. We rode along with Texas state troopers in the Rio Grande Valley. It's an area seeing an uptick in migrants trying to slip in while smugglers look to make big bucks. Within our first hour, Trooper Guadalupe Casares got an alert of illegal immigrants trying to hide in the brush. Border Patrol agents and the Texas National Guard arrived too.
¿Es verdad o no? ¿Cuánto pagaron para cruzar? ¿Nada? ¿O se quedaron de acuerdo con los carteles?
The men were handcuffed. They said their plan was to head to San Antonio. Instead, they could now face charges for smuggling. They believe the male in the purple sweatshirt was the guide.
We won't get the whole immigration history, but we'll get some of it.
So I've seen them before. We followed that trail within the ditch for a couple yards, and we ended up catching up to these two individuals that were in the ditch trying to avoid our apprehension and avoid detection.
While we were there, we saw the Border Patrol checking both migrants closely, looking for tattoos or other signs that could link them to a gang or criminal group. Smugglers in Mexico are now moving in smaller groups, looking for areas not patrolled.
So it's really a team effort. Majority of the time, our BP agents are processing individuals, and that's where we come in and we try to cover that gap so that these people don't get across.
Texas DPS drones, critical for spotting smugglers, captured this raft in action. The three Mexican nationals were quickly apprehended.
Hey, Cáceres, watch this guy, he has a vest.
But the smuggler paddled back to Mexico. There, you can see what appears to be smugglers preparing to bring another group over.
¿Cuántos años tienes? 15 años? ¿Y usted?
It's not just migrants on law enforcement's radar. Texas troopers and Border Patrol are teaming up to stop drugs. Here, they intercepted 187 pounds of narcotics and arrested 3 men from Mexico. Now they face prosecution.
All right, Jorge joins us live now. Jorge, first of all, the guy in the purple, I was thinking if he was the guide and he was trying to hide, purple probably was not the best color to wear. He seems like he stood out in the brush, but he also just seemed, in all your video, he seemed to almost be like laughing and had this sort of careless attitude the way that he was looking at the officers out there.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. We were shocked by that. He almost just accepted the reality that he was now arrested and is going to face those smuggling charges. And what was really fascinating being there on the ground is you really see the teamwork between Border Patrol agents, Texas National Guard, and Texas DPS troopers. And what they tell me is under the previous administration, those enforcement agents and Texas troopers were really stretched thin when they were processing and apprehending, hundreds, some days thousands of migrants. Now they could really focus on adapting to those smugglers, new tactics on the Mexican side, and focus on these individuals, what they would call the gotaways. These are those individuals that want to evade authorities and would likely go undetected in some cases. So Border Patrol agents and Texas DPS tell me now with this new team effort, they can now focus on those smuggling operations. I remember speaking with a Texas state trooper last year who said that, under the Biden administration, Border Patrol agents and the troopers were on what he was calling dual missions, where Border Patrol was more focused on the catch and release, and it was the Texas authorities that were focused on enforcement. So we really got to see those three agencies working together and really trying to step one step ahead of smugglers on the Mexican side, Brian.
Yeah, and I just saw the guy laughing again in the video there when he was handcuffed to the other man. They won't be laughing for long, I'll tell you that. All right, thank you, Jorge. Appreciate it as always. I want to go now to Deputy Molinar from the Kinney County Sheriff's Office in Texas, and we've also got Deputy Bronstein from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office in Arizona. Hopefully they can hear us now. I know communication has been a little bit of an issue. The Wi-Fi out there in those areas along the border can be tough. I want to start with you, though, Deputy Bronstein. You're east of Tucson, Cochise County. You're not far from I-10, which has been called Smuggler's Highway. Deputy Bronstein, what have you noticed? I mean, have you noticed a big difference since Trump took office? Is it noticeable out there on the roads?
Yes, sir. It's noticeable. It seems like our I think they do their jobs again. I've seen probably a slowdown in the amount of load vehicles pursued, but you can tell that they're working hard. So, since the election.
Have you noticed any of the migrants or cartel members becoming more aggressive? We were talking to a deputy in Arizona the other day in Pinal County who was saying that because now when they get apprehended, they're taken in and deported, whereas before they were sometimes just let go, that they will sometimes more often run or become aggressive. Is that something you or any of your guys have noticed?
It is. They often flee. They often fight. They're willing to get, a lot of times, no matter the cost. Wrecking vehicles, injury to their illegals, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The county next to you, Pinal County, there's this issue there. We had someone riding with them for the last 24 hours where there are now migrants using shuttle buses to sneak in. That's sort of a new tactic that they're using, that the cartel's putting them in shuttle buses. We were out there when they apprehended one of these shuttle buses. Take a look at this.
David 2604, 29 negative, status act 1 and 094 to Eagle Line, out of Douglas.
David 2604. Two.
David 2604.
Oh, yeah. Looks like it was just caught out of the desert. Can you start BP for 2 UDAs, please? If you want to bring them back to my car, we can start getting their shoelaces and all that off. Yep. So he crossed. How much did he pay a month ago when he crossed? $8,000 for him? Okay. He came across for free.
97 QT. 1040, just clear my vehicle back on page.
I don't know if we have Deputy Molinar available. I'm curious in terms of Texas. We saw there in Arizona, that guy said he paid $8,000 to ride in that shuttle bus to be snuck in, paid the cartel $8,000, and there was a whole van full of people right there. Deputy Molinar in Kinney County, is that something that you have seen? Is 8,000 sound high to you? Is that pretty typical?
It varies. I've never heard of that, how much of a dollar amount, but I've heard where they pay thousands of dollars to come across. Particularly, you see that more with the guy, the smuggler, being paid about $6,000 a head per person.
Deputy Molinar, are you guys seeing any different groups of people come, or when you do stop vehicles that have individuals in them, is it the regular people that you have been used to seeing in Texas from the Northern Triangle, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, or are you seeing something else in Kinney County when you do stop someone?
Yes, ma'am. It's usually the norm, just the regular guys from El Salvador, Honduras, and stuff like that. We haven't encountered anything different. The years past, we've gotten people from Chinese nationals and stuff like that. But as far as any other nationality, we haven't seen that much.
Okay, I want to ask Deputy Bronson in Arizona a question as well. We're seeing these delivery vehicles. How have your patrols changed out there? Obviously, you guys have kind of this quintessential load vehicles, what you're looking for. Obviously, they're shifting. The cartel always pivots when the United States pivots. How are you guys adjusting your response, seeing these different vehicles being used?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's ever evolving. We're used to seeing different tactics employed, so we just, we're always reactive in law enforcement, and all we can do is kind of try to keep up with the trends and, the behavior of the stressed out criminal individual. It doesn't change, so we try to focus on that and see how people react to us, and despite what they're driving, and go from there.
Yeah, Deputy Bronstein, Deputy Molinar, we appreciate all the work that both of you are doing. People don't realize how hard it is out there in these areas along the border. There's no gas stations, there's no restaurants, there's oftentimes no restrooms. The conditions are tough. So we really appreciate it, and we're happy to see that the numbers are finally starting to change. Hopefully it'll make your life a little bit easier. All right, coming up after this, we've seen all the action on the U.S.-Mexico border, but there is a surge happening in a part of America that you might not expect. That's next.
%92 of women are afraid of being assaulted while running. 60% of women have been harassed while running. 11% of women have stopped running out of fear of being a victim. 6% have been assaulted to the degree they feared for their life. Not me.
So it is easy to forget that our waters are actually a border too. And as numbers at the southern border are shrinking, we're actually seeing an increase in what's called non-land encounters. That's why the Coast Guard is ramping up its patrols. I spent 6 hours in the air with them over the coast of Florida. Take a look. Riding with the U.S. Coast Guard, you never know what to expect, especially out over the Atlantic Ocean looking for migrants.
The mission today is border security, maritime border security. I got you.
The crew flies off the Florida coast, south toward Cuba and over the Bahamas. This area is a hotbed for migrant activity. We agreed not to show the secret technology the Coast Guard uses to spot the migrants from miles away, but mission system operators are looking at screens in the back of the plane and telling the pilots which direction to fly.
When you're out here looking for vessels, what are you looking for? What makes it suspicious to you?
Yeah, we're looking for a number of different things. We're looking for vessels moving in a certain direction. So if they're moving southbound, really may not be a large indicator. If they're moving northbound, it might give us an indication of that we should probably go ahead and take a look. There's also a lot of, whether it's 20, 30 people on board or maybe even more, 100 to 200 people. These are all kind of indicators of what we're looking at.
Hands up! Hands up!
The Coast Guard has been busy with interdictions this month.
Well, which one is it? 12, 13, or 14?
31 migrants packed onto a small fishing boat. 24 Chinese migrants hiding out in an engine compartment. And look at this, a Chinese migrant found miles offshore on a paddleboard with a suitcase strapped to it.
Do they ever spot you and try to get away from the plane, go in the opposite direction, or?
They try to prolong the situation. If they do see us, that would be an indicator that they would, if they were to adjust course, might be a factor that they don't want to be found.
We're flying at about 1,000 feet right now over the cartel Islands, which are part of the Bahamas, not far from Cuba. This is an area the Coast Guard says that while many times see migrants, they think they've actually made it to the American shore and don't realize that this is part of the Bahamas. If they see someone in distress, what they'll do is they'll open this back cargo door and then they can actually drop down food supplies and even a radio.
The migrants are from different countries, nearby like Cuba and Haiti, but also far away, like China.
Well, we've had an 8,000% increase in the number of Chinese migrants that have been caught actually around the Florida coast. That's just going to increase because as enforcement becomes harder and tougher to get into in the southern border, you're going to see more and more Chinese and other migrants trying to flow into Florida.
And the migrant ocean crossings are not just on the east coast of the United States. The Coast Guard spotting 20 migrants on a small boat 21 miles off the coast of California. 17 males and 3 females from Mexico and China were trying to sneak in by sea.
Good question, Eddie.
But even if you can't see them flying high above the ocean, the Coast Guard is watching. And when they spot migrants, they dispatch Coast Guard cutters to intervene.
I think a lot of Americans think of the border as, U.S.-Mexico. You always see that on TV, but people don't realize this is actually a border too, right out here in the ocean.
Oh, yes, of course. We advise anyone that may think that they would like to enter the U.S. illegally to not take to the seas. Not only are these ventures illegal, but it also quite dangerous. And please do not trust these transnational organizations. These smugglers, they do not care about you.
Okay, coming up next, what will actually happen next? Will the smugglers and cartel find new ways to get inside America? And also the ongoing humanitarian crisis when we come back.
I saw a guy walk up. He physically came in my house. At that point, I had no option. As soon as he stuck his head in my door and saw my reaction, he wasn't ready for the result. And that's when he decided he should probably do something different than what his choices were made that day. My initial purchase at Berna was 2 launchers to try them out. I don't think I'm finished there. I think there's several more coming this direction.
All right, Ali, the hour flew by. The numbers are down, but there's still so much happening out there along the border.
Yeah, a lot of anticipation of what the cartel is going to do next, right? We've been talking about it over this last hour. It's not if, but when they're going to make a move again, because every time the United States pivots, the cartel waits a minute, and then they pivot as well, because they're trying to make their money. Congress said they're a $13 billion a year industry just moving people into the country illegally. They're not making that money right now. Everyone down here is preparing for the worst. They are in a very proactive posture this time around, though. They are not in a reactionary stance like we have seen over the last 4 years. Very high visibility. It is shoulder to shoulder. It is a force, show of force right now down at the southern border. And so they're prepared for anything. Of course, we've seen the cartel using bomb-wielding drones. There are warnings about bombs and explosives near the southern border. So it is extremely volatile down here. We know thousands of troops are being deployed down here because of what might happen. So everybody is waiting down here for something to happen. We saw this at the end of Title 42. It dried up for months. But then what happened in December? We had a record-breaking month of over 300,000 encounters, Brian. So right now, it's not if, but when, but we'll be here if it does happen. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this Crisis on the Border special.